I'm Amanda Perez, and I'm holding a set of legal documents that will destroy my brother's life. But 3 months ago, I was still paying his rent, his car note, and his credit card bills while he called my husband's gift cheap garbage in front of 50 people. Tell me in the comments, have you ever loved someone who only saw you as a bank account? I'm 32 years old and I'm a senior architect at one of the most prestigious firms in our city. I make $92,000 a year designing commercial buildings and luxury homes. My husband Thomas is 35 and he's a master furniture maker. He works with wood the way most people work with clay, turning raw materials into art. We've been married for 4 years, and we live in a modest townhouse that we renovated ourselves just outside the city limits. Thomas runs his custom furniture workshop from our converted garage. The smell of cedar and walnut is constantly drifting through our house. He's the kind of man who spends 6 months on a single piece because he refuses to rush perfection. We drive paid-off vehicles, a practical sedan for me and an old truck for him. We have savings. We plan for the future. We're what most people would call comfortable. But comfortable doesn't mean wealthy. It means we're careful. It means we make choices. And for 8 years, those choices included supporting my entire family financially. My family operates on a different system than most. There's my father, Raphael, who's 61 now. He used to run heavy equipment until his back gave out, and Parkinson's disease turned him into a medical liability. Now he's on disability, pulling in about $1,900 a month. My mother, Carmen, is 58. She works as a receptionist at a chiropractor's office, making about $2,800 a month. Together, they make $4,700 monthly. Their mortgage is $1,600. Add utilities, insurance, food, and my father's medications, and the math simply doesn't work. But instead of downsizing or adjusting their lifestyle, they just called me whenever the numbers didn't add up, which was every single month. Then there's Daniel, my younger brother. 29 years old, 5'10", and convinced he's destined for greatness despite zero evidence supporting that theory. He's been finding himself for the past decade, bouncing between failed business ventures and half-finished community college classes. He's got this thing where he'll post a photo at some trendy coffee shop with a caption like, "Treating myself because self-care isn't selfish." And then 3 hours later, he's texting me, asking to borrow money for gas. For 8 years, I was their safety net, their backup plan, their ATM. And I let it happen because I thought that's what family meant. There were signs I should have seen. Little things that add up when you look back. Like how Daniel would show up at family dinners in designer sneakers while claiming he couldn't afford his electric bill. Or how my parents would thank me for covering their mortgage shortfall in the same breath they'd mention the expensive dinner they'd just had with my aunt and uncle. Or how Thomas would sit quietly at these dinners, watching, saying nothing, but I could feel his disappointment. My husband isn't the type to push. He's patient, observant. But about 6 months ago, he started working on something in his workshop, something he wouldn't let me see. He'd stay up late, and I'd hear the sound of sanding, smell exotic wood, see deliveries of expensive brass hardware. When I'd ask what he was making, he'd just smile and say, "It's for your father's birthday. I want it to be perfect." That should have been my first clue that something was coming. Thomas doesn't do anything halfway. When he commits to something, he goes all in. But I was too busy being the responsible daughter, the reliable sister, the family hero to notice what was building. I was too busy paying everyone else's bills to see that my own life was on hold. Our dream house fund, empty. Our delayed honeymoon, postponed again. Our future, sacrificed for people who saw me as a resource, not a person. My parents' house was scheduled to host my father's 61st birthday party. Daniel had volunteered to coordinate everything, which should have been my second warning sign. My brother coordinating anything was like asking a tornado to organize your closet. But he insisted. He said he had it handled. He said I didn't need to stress. He asked what Thomas was making for Dad, and when I mentioned it was a desk, something flickered across his face, something I should have recognized. But they had no idea what was coming next. My husband isn't just a woodworker, he's an artist. And what he'd created for my father would become the most expensive, cheap garbage my brother ever insulted. It started when I was young. I was always the responsible one, the one who had things figured out. Daniel was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong even when he was clearly doing everything wrong. I was 12 when I won a regional architecture competition for young students. My design for a sustainable community center beat out 200 other entries. The awards ceremony was on a Saturday afternoon. My parents didn't come. Daniel had a soccer game at the same time, and they chose that instead. He didn't even score a goal that day, but they were there, cheering in the stands, while I accepted my award in front of a room full of strangers. When I got home with my trophy, my mother looked up from making dinner and said, "That's nice, honey. Your brother's team won today. Aren't you proud of him?" I was 16 when I started working part-time at a local drafting office, learning skills, earning money for my own school supplies and clothes. Daniel got a brand new gaming setup that Christmas because, as my father said, boys need technology to stay competitive. College was the same pattern on a larger scale. I went to state school on a partial scholarship, working 2 jobs to cover the rest. Daniel's college fund, the one my grandparents had set up for both of us, was depleted within his first year on what my parents called his business ideas, crypto trading courses, drop shipping seminars, a multi-level marketing scheme selling energy drinks. When I graduated with honors and got my first real job at an architecture firm, I thought things would change. I thought finally I'd proven myself. Finally, I'd be seen. Instead, my father called me 3 days after I started and asked if I could co-sign a car lease for Daniel. His credit wasn't good enough. "It's just temporary," my father said, "just to help him get started. You're doing so well now. You can afford to help your brother." I signed the papers. That was 8 years ago, and it opened the floodgates. The first few years were small loans, 500 here, 1,200 there. "Just this once," they'd say. "We'll pay you back next month." Next month never came. The requests just got bigger. Daniel's credit card minimums when he invested in cryptocurrency and lost everything. My parents' property tax bill of $4,200 when my father's medical expenses hit and they had nothing left. Then Daniel's car got repossessed. I bought him a used Honda Civic. He crashed it 6 months later, texting while driving. I bought him another one. Years 4 through 6 were when it became systematic. Daniel moved into a luxury apartment he couldn't afford, $1,400 a month. When he couldn't make rent, he'd call. When my parents fell short on their mortgage, they'd call. When my father needed medications, they'd call. I was covering Daniel's rent, my parents' $650 monthly mortgage shortfall, utilities, insurance, internet, phone bills. I became a line item in everyone else's budget. Thomas started noticing around year 5. We were sitting at our dining table one evening, and he was doing math on a napkin. Not like him. He's not usually the type to track finances obsessively, but something had been bothering him. "Amanda," he said quietly. "You've given them more than our down payment fund." "Twice. They're family," I said. "They need help." He looked at me with those patient eyes. "They need consequences. You're not helping them. You're enabling them." I didn't want to hear it. Thomas's parents are both successful. His father owned a restaurant. His mother managed the books. They retired comfortably. They never asked their kids for money because they planned properly. They live within their means. My family doesn't operate that way. My family operates on crisis management and emotional manipulation. Thomas stopped pushing after that conversation, but I noticed he started documenting things. He'd quietly note when my parents called asking for money. He'd screenshot Daniel's Instagram posts showing expensive dinners and weekend trips, posted the same week he'd text me saying he couldn't afford groceries. The breaking point started building 18 months ago. Daniel showed up at our house on a Tuesday evening with a binder, an actual business plan binder with plastic covers and printed charts. He wanted to open a supplement dropshipping business. He'd done the research, he said, found suppliers, identified target markets, created social media strategies. The business would be online only, low overhead, high margins. He just needed startup capital, $45,000. Thomas's response was immediate. Absolutely not. But I was already halfway to talking myself into it. Daniel had never been this prepared before, this serious. Maybe this was his turning point. Maybe this was when he'd finally become independent, finally stop needing me. My parents backed him up. "Amanda, this is his real chance. He'll finally be self-sufficient. You'd be investing in his future, in our family's future." Thomas refused to sign anything, so I took out a personal loan in my name only. 7.9% interest. I had a lawyer friend draw up a loan agreement between me and Daniel. 6% annual interest, 48-month term, monthly payments of $750. I made him sign it. I made sure it was legal and binding. The business lasted 11 months. For the first 3 months, Daniel actually made payments, $750 right on time. He sent me monthly revenue reports showing real sales numbers. The online store looked professional. I drove past the warehouse space he'd rented, saw activity, saw shipments going out. Month 4, the payment was a week late. Month 5, 2 weeks late. Month 6, no payment at all. The revenue report stopped coming. Instead, I got vague texts about cash flow issues and supply chain problems. Meanwhile, his Instagram showed him at expensive restaurants, posting stories from weekend trips to the coast, wearing new designer clothes. The business social media went from showing products to posting motivational quotes. When I confronted him, he said I wouldn't understand entrepreneurship, that businesses take time to build, that I was being unsupportive. By month 11, the business was dead. The warehouse lease terminated. The website went dark. Daniel moved back into his luxury apartment like nothing had happened. He owed me $38,250, and he just stopped talking about it, like it never happened, like I'd given him a gift instead of a loan. I was supporting 4 adults at that point. Daniel's rent, my parents' mortgage shortfall, my father's medications that insurance wouldn't cover, $850 a month. Internet bills, car insurance, phone bills, utilities, emergency money every other week. The worst part wasn't the money, it was the entitlement, the complete lack of gratitude. To them, my support wasn't help. It was just what I was supposed to do because I had good money. Thomas stopped being subtle about it. We'd lie in bed at night and he'd say, "You're enabling them. They're adults. They should act like it." "What am I supposed to do?" I'd ask. Let him lose everything? They're not going to lose everything, he'd say. They'll figure it out like everyone else does. But why would they when you're always there to catch them? He was right. But family is complicated. You don't just cut people off because they're struggling, except they weren't really struggling. They were just bad with money, and they knew I'd always be there to fix it. Then came the announcement about my father's birthday. My father was turning 61 at the end of October. He'd been dropping hints for weeks about wanting something different this year, something more special than the usual backyard cookout. His Parkinson's diagnosis had been hard on him. He'd been denied disability review again. He was depressed about getting older, about his body failing him. I figured he deserved something good. Daniel called me 3 weeks before the birthday. He wanted to plan something epic at Mom and Dad's house. I offered to help coordinate, to help pay for catering. He said, "No need, sis. I've got this handled. You just focus on your gift. What's Thomas making, anyway?" "A desk," I said, "custom piece from reclaimed wood." Daniel laughed. "A desk? That's different." Well, Dad will appreciate anything from family. Something in his tone should have warned me, but I was too focused on other things. Thomas had been working on that desk for 6 months. I'd watched it take shape through the frosted glass of his workshop door. I'd seen him stay up until 2 in the morning, heard the patient sound of hand sanding, smelled the exotic wood oils he used for finishing. He'd spent over 240 hours on this piece. When he finally let me see it 3 days before the party, I cried. The desk was made from reclaimed oak, barn wood that Thomas had tracked down and imported from Spain, specifically from a barn on my father's family property in Galicia, where my father had spent childhood summers. Thomas had secretly contacted my Uncle Miguel, my father's brother, who still lived there, and arranged to have the wood shipped to the States. The desk was a work of art, built in executive style with a leather top, featuring hidden compartments that opened with brass keys. The family crest was hand-carved into the front panel. Modern charging stations were disguised as vintage drawer pulls. Every joint was hand-cut, every surface finished to a mirror shine. If someone commissioned this piece from Thomas's workshop, it would cost between $12,000 and $15,000. He'd put 6 months of his life into this. For my father, "Thomas," I said, wiping my eyes, "he's going to love this." "He better," Thomas said quietly. "I'd put our entire anniversary into this piece. Our anniversary. We'd postponed our anniversary trip because I'd needed to cover an emergency expense for my parents. Thomas hadn't complained. He just suggested we celebrate at home, and apparently he'd been using that time in his workshop instead. This man had put his heart into a gift from my father, while my family treated me like an ATM. The party was scheduled for Saturday evening, October 28th, at my parents' house. Daniel had said he'd handle all the coordination. He told me not to worry about anything except showing up. I should have known better. Looking back, all the signs were there. Daniel asking too many questions about the desk, his weird laugh when I mentioned it, the way he said Dad will appreciate anything from family, like there was a hidden meaning I was missing. But I trusted him. Despite everything, despite the unpaid loans and the broken promises and the years of taking advantage, I trusted my brother. That was my mistake. The party was supposed to start at 7. Thomas and I spent the day before carefully loading the desk into a rental van. It was too valuable to risk in his regular truck. We wrapped it in blankets, secured it with straps, treated it like the treasure it was. Saturday evening, we drove to my parents' house. Thomas was quiet, which wasn't unusual. He's not a big talker, but there was something in his silence that felt different. like he was bracing for something. We pulled up at 6:55. The house was dark. No cars in the driveway except my parents' old sedan. "That's weird," I said. "Maybe everyone's running late." Thomas didn't respond. He was staring at the house with an expression I couldn't read. We walked to the front door. It was unlocked. I pushed it open and called out, "Mom? Dad? Anyone home?" Silence. The kitchen light was on. There was a note on the counter in Daniel's handwriting. "Plans changed. Real party at Manuel's Steakhouse. 8 p.m. Private room. Dress nice." I looked at Thomas. He picked up the note, read it again, then set it down carefully. "This feels wrong," he said. "Maybe Daniel wanted to do something special," I said. Upgrade from a house party." "Amanda," Thomas said quietly, "this feels wrong." But I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think my family would do something deliberately cruel. So we got back in the van, desks still loaded, and drove to Manuel's Steakhouse. We arrived at Manuel's at exactly 8 o'clock. It's an upscale place, the kind with valet parking and a hostess stand with fresh flowers. Thomas handed the keys to the valet while I checked my phone. No new messages from anyone. Inside, the hostess greeted us with a professional smile. "Welcome to Manuel's. Do you have a reservation?" "We're here for the Perez party," I said. "Private room?" Her smile faltered slightly. She checked her computer, scrolling through the list. "I'm sorry, I don't see a reservation under that name. What time was your reservation for?" 8 o'clock, I said, feeling the first flutter of unease in my stomach. It should be under Perez, or maybe Daniel Perez. She checked again, taking her time. "I'm really sorry, but there's no reservation for any Perez party this evening. Are you sure it was for tonight?" Thomas's hand found my elbow. His grip was gentle but firm. "Let's check our phones." We stepped away from the hostess stand. I pulled out my phone and saw a text from Daniel that had come through 45 minutes ago. "Running late, start without us." I called my mother, straight to voicemail. Called my father, voicemail. Called Daniel. His phone went straight to that automated message saying the number had been disconnected. "Amanda," Thomas said quietly, "check social media." I didn't want to. Something in his tone told me I really didn't want to, but I opened Instagram anyway. The first thing I saw was a live stream from my Aunt Sophia. She was at my parents' house, in their living room, and the place was packed with people. My entire extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, family friends, they were all there, laughing, eating, celebrating my father's birthday. At the house we'd just left, I stood there in Manuel's Steakhouse lobby watching my family party without me. Thomas looked over my shoulder at my phone screen. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The live stream showed my father at the head of the table, wearing a birthday hat, smiling bigger than I'd seen him smile in months. Daniel was beside him, arm around his shoulders. My mother was laughing at something my uncle said. The dining table was covered with food, gifts, decorations. They'd waited for us to leave. They'd sent us to a fake restaurant reservation so they could have the party without us. I scrolled through other posts. Daniel's girlfriend had posted an Instagram story. "Real family celebrates together. Happy birthday, Dad." My cousin posted a group photo. Everyone was in it. Everyone except me and Thomas. Another story from Aunt Sophia. Some people think fancy restaurants matter more than genuine love. We know better. Thomas gently took my phone and read through the posts himself. His expression never changed, but I could feel the anger radiating off him. "They planned this," I whispered. "This wasn't a miscommunication. They deliberately excluded us. We need to leave. Thomas said. Now. But I couldn't move. I just stood there watching more posts appear. My uncle making a toast, my father cutting into a grocery store sheet cake with Happy Birthday Isaac written in blue icing, Daniel handing my father a wrapped gift. My phone buzzed with a family group chat notification. I opened it. Daniel had posted. Hope you and Eve enjoyed eating alone. Dad had a real birthday with people who actually care about him. My mother. Best birthday surprise ever. So grateful for those who show up when it counts. My Aunt Christine. Isaac looks so happy tonight. That's what matters. Nobody mentioned me. Nobody asked where I was. Nobody acknowledged that I was supposed to be there. This was coordinated. This was planned. Every single person in my family had known about this and participated in deliberately excluding me. I typed into the group chat. Interesting that nobody thought to mention this to me. I've been sitting at Manuel's Steakhouse for 20 minutes. The chat went silent for a full minute. Then Daniel responded. Oh, you actually showed up to that? We figured you'd be too busy counting your money to care about family. My Uncle Bruce. Maybe next time don't make it about showing off. I stared at the messages. They were punishing me for asking Daniel to pay his loan, for not being available every single time they needed money, for having boundaries. Thomas was reading over my shoulder again. He took my phone gently and typed a response. What are they saying? I showed him. His face went cold in a way I'd never seen before. They planned this whole thing to hurt you. More messages were coming in now. My family was piling on. Riley. We talked about it and decided Dad deserves a party with people who love him, not people trying to buy his affection. My mother. Pizza and family beats fancy restaurants any day. Then my father's message came through. Had a great time tonight. Thanks to everyone who made it special. That hurt worse than all the others combined. My father was going along with it. He'd let them exclude me. He'd participated in humiliating me. I felt Thomas's hand on my shoulder. We need to go home. I let him guide me out of the restaurant. The valet brought our van around. Thomas tipped him and we climbed in. The desk was still in the back, wrapped carefully in blankets. We drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. Then I started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind of laughter that comes when something is so absurd you can't process it any other way. They sent us to a fake restaurant, I said. They coordinated this whole thing. Everyone knew. Everyone participated. Thomas's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I should have pushed harder. Years ago. I should have made you see what they were doing. This isn't your fault, I said. It's not yours either, he said, but it ends tonight. When we got home, I went straight to our home office. Thomas followed me silently. I opened my laptop and started pulling up files. Bank statements, text message records, the loan agreement with Daniel, every receipt, every transfer, every request for money over the past 8 years. What are you doing? Thomas asked. I'm documenting everything, I said. Every single dollar, every broken promise, every manipulation. Thomas pulled up a chair beside me. Then I'm helping. We stayed up until 3 in the morning. We created a spreadsheet with 8 years of financial support. The numbers were staggering. $167,000. That's what I'd given to my family over 8 years. Money that should have gone to our house fund, our retirement, our future. Daniel's unpaid loan alone was $38,250. I'd been paying my parents' mortgage shortfall of $650 every month for 6 years. That's $46,800. My father's medications, $850 monthly for 4 years, $40,800. Daniel's rent for 18 months, $25,200. Car insurance, phone bills, utilities, emergency money. It added up to $167,000. Meanwhile, Daniel posted photos from expensive restaurants. My parents took weekend trips. They bought new furniture. They lived beyond their means because they knew I'd always catch them. The party exclusion wasn't about one birthday. It was about punishing me for finally setting a boundary, for asking Daniel to actually pay back money he owed, for not being available as their personal ATM anymore. Thomas looked at the spreadsheet and shook his head. You could have bought your dream house with this money. We could have, I said. We could have done so many things. What do you want to do now? He asked. I looked at him. At this good man who'd tried to warn me for years, who'd put 6 months of his life into creating something beautiful for my father, only to have it mocked before anyone even saw it. I want to burn it all down, I said. Thomas nodded slowly. Then we burn it down. Monday morning, I called Mia. She's been my best friend since college, and she's now a corporate lawyer at a downtown firm. I've never asked her for professional help before, but I needed her now. Mia, I said when she answered, I need your help destroying someone financially and legally. There was a pause. Then she said, finally, bring me everything. We met at her office that afternoon. I brought printed copies of everything, the loan agreement with Daniel, 8 years of bank statements, text messages, his social media posts showing expensive lifestyle while claiming poverty, documentation of every broken promise. Mia spread it all out on her conference table and studied it with the focus of a surgeon examining X-rays. After 20 minutes, she looked up. This is airtight, she said. He signed a legal loan agreement. He's been in default for 7 months. You have every right to sue for full payment plus interest and legal fees. And this other stuff, the business income he never reported for taxes, that's a whole separate issue. What about my parents? I asked. That's trickier, she said. You never formalized anything with them, but you can stop paying any time you want. You're under no legal obligation to support them. I want to do this right, I said. I want it to hurt, but I want it legal. Good, Mia said, because revenge is sweetest when it's completely by the book. That evening, I visited my neighbor, Mr. Kowalski. He's a retired judge, 78 years old, and he's lived next door since we moved in. He's seen me loading groceries after long days. He's waved hello when I've rushed out to handle another family emergency. He's watched my life quietly from his porch. I told him everything, the whole story. He listened without interrupting, his old eyes sharp and attentive. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You know what you're doing is right? I don't know anything anymore, I said. Let me tell you something, he said. I had a son who treated me like a wallet. Every time he called, it was because he needed something. Money, bail, someone to blame for his problems. It took me until I was 60 to finally cut him off. I spent years enabling him, thinking that's what fathers do. But you know what I learned? Sometimes love means letting people face consequences. That's the only way they learn. I nodded, feeling tears well up. Your family will call you cruel, he continued. They'll call you selfish. They'll tell you that family sticks together. But family is supposed to be mutual. What they did to you wasn't family. That was exploitation. The next morning, the legal machine started moving. Mia filed a lawsuit against Daniel for the full unpaid loan amount, $38,250 in principal, plus $8,400 in accrued interest, plus legal fees. We attached evidence of his business income that was never reported to the IRS. We included documentation that he'd received a business loan, operated for 11 months, generated revenue, and never filed proper tax returns. We also filed a formal notification with the IRS about his unreported income. The same day, I systematically canceled every automatic payment I'd been making: Daniel's rent, my parents' mortgage assistance, my father's medication copays, every utility bill, subscription service, insurance payment, everything. The monthly total was $4,200. I called my bank and set up alerts so I'd know if anyone tried to access old account information. I changed passwords. I locked everything down. Then I sent a certified letter to my parents. Professional, legal, final. Dear Mom and Dad, I have supported this family financially for 8 years while being treated as an afterthought. Daniel owes me $38,250 and has been sued. I will no longer provide financial assistance to anyone. You have 60 days to adjust your budgets. This is not negotiable. Amanda. Thomas handled his own response. He posted on his business Instagram account, which has 18,000 followers in the woodworking community. The post showed the full creation process of my father's desk. Photos of the raw wood from Spain, shots of the careful construction, the hand-carved family crest, the hidden compartments, the brass hardware, the finished piece in all its glory. His caption was simple and devastating. 6 months, 240 hours, $15,000 custom desk made from client's family heritage wood, called cheap garbage by his son before anyone even saw it. Sometimes the people who value things least receive the most. This piece is now for sale. DM for price. The post went viral. Within 6 hours, it had been shared 4,000 times. The woodworking community was outraged. Comments poured in, calling Daniel out, calling my family out, expressing disgust at how Thomas's work had been disrespected. A local design blog picked up the story. Craftsman's labor of love rejected by entitled family. They interviewed Thomas, got more photos, shared the full story. By that evening, the post had 20,000 shares. A furniture collector from Los Angeles direct messaged Thomas. "I want to buy that desk. Name your price." Thomas responded, $28,000. The collector didn't even negotiate. Sold. I'll arrange shipping. Thomas posted an update. Desk sold to a buyer who appreciates craftsmanship. $15,000 being donated to youth woodworking program in Barcelona. Remaining amount kept for future projects. Thank you for the outrage. It helped. Meanwhile, my family was imploding. Daniel was served with the lawsuit at his apartment. The papers arrived by process server on Wednesday morning. His landlord saw the legal trouble and immediately issued a 30-day notice to vacate. The lease had a clause about legal issues. The IRS audit notice arrived the next day. They wanted documentation of all business income from his supplement company. He owed approximately $14,000 in back taxes. His girlfriend posted on her Instagram that she needed space to figure things out. 3 days later, she'd moved in with someone else. My parents called me 17 times that first week. I didn't answer. They left voicemails, Mom crying, Dad demanding I answer, Uncle Bruce telling me I was destroying the family. I deleted them all without listening. They showed up at my house on Thursday evening. Thomas answered the door and stood in the doorway, filling the frame. "She doesn't want to see you," he said calmly. My father tried to push past him. Thomas didn't move. My father isn't a small man, but Thomas has spent years lifting wood and working with his hands. He's solid. "You need to leave," Thomas said, "now." My mother started crying. "Please, we need to talk to her. We need to explain." "There's nothing to explain," Thomas said. "You excluded her from a party to humiliate her. You used her for years. You enabled Daniel's behavior. You're done. Leave before I call the police." They left, but they came back the next day, and the day after that. I finally called the non-emergency police line and reported them for harassment. An officer came out and explained that if they continued showing up uninvited, I could file for a restraining order. They stopped coming to the house, but the calls continued. Daniel lost his apartment 30 days later. He had nowhere to go except my parents' house. He moved into their spare bedroom, the one that used to be his childhood room. My parents were furious with him. "We didn't know you owed her that much," my mother kept saying in voicemails. "You told us you'd paid her back. You lied to all of us." Without my monthly support, my parents couldn't cover their bills. The first month, they borrowed money from Uncle Bruce. The second month, they sold my mother's jewelry. By month 3, they were behind on everything. The mortgage company started calling daily. They were 60 days behind. My father got a part-time job at a home improvement store. With his Parkinson's, it must have been torture, but they needed the money. My mother joined a pyramid scheme selling diet shakes. She posted awkward videos on Facebook trying to recruit people. Their car died completely in week 6, just shut off in a parking lot and wouldn't restart. The repair cost more than the car was worth. They couldn't afford a new car. They started walking places or catching rides from neighbors. By month 3, they received an eviction notice. They had 30 days to pay the back mortgage or leave the house they'd lived in for 28 years. They ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town, the kind of place where sirens are constant background noise. The rent was actually higher than their mortgage had been, but with destroyed credit, it was all they could qualify for. Daniel moved with them, sleeping on their couch. And still, none of them apologized. Not really. They sent messages saying things like, "We miss you," or "Family should forgive," but never, "I'm sorry." Never, "We were wrong." Until the night everything came to a head. It was a Thursday, about 6 weeks after I'd cut them off. Someone started pounding on our front door around 9 p.m. Not knocking, pounding. I looked through the peephole and saw Daniel. He looked like he'd been crying for hours, hair a mess, wearing clothes I recognized from years ago. He was swaying slightly. Thomas came up behind me. "Don't open it." But I did. I opened the door, but I didn't step aside. "What do you want, Daniel?" He laughed. The sound was bitter, and he smelled like alcohol. "What do I want? I want my life back. I want you to stop being a vindictive witch and fix what you destroyed." He was holding a bottle, half empty. This was bad. "You destroyed your own life," I said. "I just stopped building it for you." His voice got louder. "Neighbors' lights were coming on. You destroyed my business. You took my apartment. You ruined everything because you couldn't handle one family dinner. You defaulted on a loan," I said. "Actions have consequences." Thomas appeared behind me. "You need to leave. Now." Daniel's eyes focused on Thomas and something ugly crossed his face. "Oh, here he is, the perfect husband. Tell me, Thomas, does it feel good? Does it feel good watching her destroy her family over your stupid desk?" That crossed a line. I stepped forward. "You don't talk to my husband. Ever." Daniel got more agitated, gesturing wildly with the bottle. That pathetic desk you made, like anyone wanted that cheap handmade garbage. You think you're so special because you can work with wood? Newsflash, nobody cares. Nobody wanted it. Thomas's voice went cold. Last warning, leave now, or what? Daniel sneered. You'll ruin my life some more. Too late. Amanda's already done that. Then Daniel did something incredibly stupid. He threw the bottle, aimed right at Thomas's face. Thomas moved fast, got his hand up. The bottle hit his palm instead of his face, bounced off and shattered on our front step. Glass and liquid everywhere. Daniel stared at what he'd done. For a second, reality seemed to hit him. Then he ran. Thomas was already pulling out his phone, calling 911. Our neighbor across the street opened his door. I saw everything, he called out. I got it on video. The police arrived within 10 minutes. They found Daniel 2 streets over, sitting on a curb, crying. Our neighbor provided his video evidence, clear footage of Daniel throwing the bottle at us. Do you want to press charges? The officer asked. I looked at the broken glass on our step, at Thomas's hand, which was cut and bleeding, at the fear and anger in my husband's eyes. Yes, I said, I want to press charges. They arrested Daniel for assault and public intoxication. The next day, I went to the courthouse and filed for a permanent restraining order. I brought the video evidence, photos of Thomas's cut hand, the police report, witness statements from our neighbor. The temporary order went into effect immediately. Daniel couldn't come within 100 yards of me, Thomas, or our house. 2 weeks later, we had the court hearing. Daniel showed up with a bargain attorney who looked miserable to be there. The judge watched the video, reviewed the evidence, read through the police report. You threw a bottle at someone's face while intoxicated, the judge said. You were on their property making threats. This is serious assault. Daniel tried to explain about family disputes. The judge wasn't interested. Permanent restraining order granted, she said. 100 yards at all times. No contact through any means, including social media or third parties. Violation means immediate arrest. The assault charge resulted in a plea deal. 6 months probation, $1,200 in fines, $380 restitution for damages, and mandatory counseling. But here's what nobody knew yet. What my family had no idea about. The thing that would change everything. I've been keeping a secret for 3 years. My grandmother, my father's mother, died 3 years ago. She was 91, sharp as ever, lived in Barcelona her whole life. Her funeral was there. My parents and Daniel went. Thomas and I couldn't make it. I had a major project deadline and we just bought our house. But grandmother left a will with a Spanish attorney. She'd divided her estate carefully. She left my parents some money, enough to help, but not enough to live on. She left Daniel nothing. In her will, she specifically wrote, Daniel is entitled and foolish with money. I will not enable his irresponsibility. She left me everything else. A 3-bedroom apartment in Barcelona worth 380,000 euros. A portfolio of stocks and bonds worth 95,000 euros. Some jewelry, some furniture. The total value was about 520,000 US dollars. The Spanish attorney contacted me privately. My grandmother had been clear. My parents didn't need to know the full extent of the inheritance. They knew she'd left me something, but not how much. I've been sitting on over $500,000 for 3 years, living off my architecture salary, watching my family struggle and demand money from me, never mentioning what I actually had. Thomas knew. He's the only one who knew, and he supported my decision to keep it quiet, because grandmother's gift wasn't just money, it was a test. To see who in the family would love me for me, not for what I could provide. My family failed that test spectacularly, and now I was going to show them exactly what they'd lost. 3 months after I cut them off, I got a call from my mother. Her voice was shaking in that particular way that meant bad news. "Simon, please," she said. "Your father collapsed at work. His blood sugar crashed. He's in the hospital. We can't afford the bills." The old me would have been at that hospital in 10 minutes. The old me would have pulled out my credit card before even asking how much it cost. "That's tough, Mom," I said. "I hope you figure it out." "He could die, Amanda. Your father could die because we can't afford proper treatment. You should have thought about that before you humiliated me and Thomas." "We were wrong," she said, and this time there was real desperation in her voice. "The party thing was cruel and stupid. We know that now. Please don't punish us by letting your father die." "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm just not paying anymore. There are county hospital programs. You should look into them." I hung up. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But Mr. Kowalski had been right. Sometimes love means letting people face consequences. 3 days later, Daniel showed up at our house again. He stayed on the sidewalk this time, carefully maintaining the 100-yard restraining order distance. He called out from there, "Amanda, please. I know about the restraining order. I'm not breaking it. I just need to talk to you. Please." Thomas and I stood in our doorway watching him from a distance. "I'm sorry," Daniel yelled. "I finally understand what I did. The party, the loan. Mocking Thomas's desk, throwing the bottle. All of it. I'm sorry." "Okay," I called back. "Is that all?" "Dad's in the hospital. Mom's falling apart. I'm working 2 jobs, barely affording anything, and it's all my fault." His voice broke. "I know I don't deserve help, but please don't let Dad die because of me. I'll work the rest of my life to pay you back. I'll sign anything. Do anything. Just please help him." I looked at Thomas. He shook his head slightly, but this was my decision. "I'll think about it," I called back. I made them wait 4 days. Let them sit with the uncertainty. Let them wonder. Let them feel what it's like to need something desperately from someone who doesn't owe you anything. On day 5, I called Mia again. "I need you to draft multiple agreements, very specific terms." We set up a meeting at Mia's law firm conference room. Me, Thomas, and Mia on one side of the table. My parents, Daniel, and Uncle Bruce on the other side. "Here's how this works," I said, and my voice was steady and cold. "These are the terms. Non-negotiable. You sign all of them, or you get nothing." I slid the first document to Daniel. "After the car sold, you still owe me $27,900. Your monthly payment is $600 plus interest. Miss one payment and we're done forever. The restraining order stays in place until the debt is paid in full." He nodded immediately. "Yes, whatever you want." I slid the second document to my parents. "I'll cover Dad's critical medical expenses. That means insulin, necessary medications, and essential doctor visits. I'll also provide $400 monthly toward your rent. All of this comes with 6% interest and a 5-year repayment plan. Once Dad is stable, you start paying me back. Miss one payment and all support stops immediately." My mother was crying. "We understand. You'll also attend financial counseling. Every session. I'll get progress reports. Skip one, and the deal is off." My father looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded. "And the birthday party," I continued. "You're going to post a public explanation of what happened on Facebook, all 3 of you. No sugarcoating. You're going to own what you did." "That's humiliating," my mother whispered. "Yes," I said, "it is. But you humiliated me first. One more thing. Thomas gets an apology, in person, right now, from all of you. Daniel turned to Thomas. His voice was quiet and genuinely broken. I'm so sorry. The desk was beautiful. You spent 6 months on it, and I mocked it because I was jealous and petty. I was jealous of everything you and Amanda have, everything you built together. I'm sorry for the bottle, for everything. My mother and father added their apologies. Fumbling, awkward, but they said the words. Thomas nodded but said nothing. Mia spoke up. Everyone clear on the terms? You violate any part of these agreements and Amanda has the legal right to immediately cease all support. These documents are airtight. They all signed. The Facebook posts went up within 3 days. All 3 of them posted similar messages explaining what had happened, how they'd organized a secret party, excluded me and Thomas, mocked his gift, used me as their ATM for years. The comments were brutal, extended family members asking what they were thinking. Some people defended them, most didn't. Payments started coming in exactly on time. Daniel's first $600 payment hit my account on day 30. His second payment came on day 60. His third on day 90. My father's medical situation stabilized. They got him on a proper diet and medication schedule. My parents attended every financial counseling session. 3 months in, Daniel was working 3 jobs, Target during the day, grocery store stocking at night, coffee shop on weekends. It was grinding him down, but he kept making payments. The family dynamic was completely different now. No warm feelings, no Sunday dinners. When we interacted, it was about payments, budgets, medical updates, professional, cold, transactional. Thomas kept his distance, polite when necessary, but never warm. He hadn't forgiven them for the desk, for the humiliation. I didn't blame him. 9 months into the new arrangement, things were holding. Barely, but holding. My parents had made it through their first full cycle of financial counseling and were starting to understand concepts like budgeting and living within their means. Then came the test. My mother called with that practiced tone she used to use. Amanda, honey, your father's teeth are in bad shape. He needs dental work. Probably a few $1,000s. It's not covered under the medical agreement. We were hoping you could help. Does he need it to survive? I asked. Well, no, but he's in pain. Then it's not critical medical care, not covered. Amanda, he's suffering. Mom, we have a contract. Critical medical means life-sustaining treatment. Dental work isn't in our agreement. This is cruel. No, I said. Cruel was organizing a party to humiliate me and Thomas. This is business. She hung up. 2 weeks later, my father got his dental work through a county assistance program. They'd figured it out. Month 11 brought Daniel testing boundaries. His payment was 5 days late. I waited until day 6, then called him. Where's the payment? I'm sorry, he said. I got behind this month. I'll have it soon. Contract says payments are due on the 1st. You're now 6 days into month 12 without paying month 11. You have 24 days to get current or we're done. I'll have it, I promise. 24 days. Not negotiating. The payment hit 13 days later with a text. Sorry for the delay. Won't happen again. I didn't respond. The payment said everything. 18 months in, things had settled into a routine. Daniel had paid off about $10,800 of his debt. At this rate, he had about 3 more years to go. His Instagram was dead. No more posts about expensive dinners or weekend trips. He was just another person grinding through retail work. The golden child had become invisible. My parents were still in that rough apartment. My father still worked part-time at the hardware store. My mother had given up on the pyramid scheme and was working at a call center. They'd learned to shop at discount stores, clip coupons, plan meals carefully. The resentment was still there. I could see it in my father's eyes during our quarterly financial reviews. He hated that his daughter was supervising his budget, but he kept showing up. Then came the encounter that changed everything. I was shopping at Target on a Saturday afternoon, just picking up some household supplies. I turned down the electronics aisle and saw Daniel in his red vest, helping a customer with a TV. He looked different, older, heavier, tired. The arrogance that used to define him was completely gone. He finished with his customer and saw me. He froze. I could have walked away. Part of me wanted to, but something made me wait. He approached carefully. "Amanda, can we talk? Please?" We stepped outside the store into the parking lot. "I was a piece of garbage," he said without preamble. "No excuses. I spent years using you, taking advantage of you. That desk, I saw the photos of it online. It was incredible. Thomas is incredibly talented, and I called it cheap garbage because I was jealous of both of you." I said nothing, just watched him. "I'm paying you back. $400 a month. I know it'll take years, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I got caught, because of what I did." "Are you sorry for what you did?" I asked. "Or sorry you faced consequences?" "Both," he said honestly, "but mostly what I did. I see Mom and Dad struggling. I caused that. You were holding all of us up, and I mocked you for it. The payments keep coming," I said. "That's all I need from you." I started to walk away. "Amanda," I turned back. "Your husband," he said quietly. "Tell him the desk was beautiful. I know it's too late. I know I destroyed any chance of you trusting me again. But tell him I finally understand what he put into it. And I'm sorry." I looked at my brother, this broken version of the golden child. Part of me felt satisfaction. Another part felt something else. Not quite pity. Maybe just sadness for what we'd never been to each other. "I'll tell him," I said, and I walked away. That night, I told Thomas about the encounter. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Free," I said. "He can apologize forever. It doesn't change anything. I don't hate him anymore. I just don't care. And that feels like freedom." Thomas smiled. "Good. That's exactly right." 1 year after I cut them off, my life looked completely different. Thomas and I sold my grandmother's Barcelona apartment. We used the money to buy our dream house, a restored 1920s craftsman with a huge workshop space for Thomas, high ceilings, original hardwood, a garden where we planted vegetables. Thomas expanded his business, hired an apprentice, a young woman with talent and hunger to learn. His waiting list grew to 18 months. I made partner at my architecture firm, started a side consulting business with Mia, helping other people with family financial abuse situations. We traveled to Barcelona twice a year, staying in hotels, visiting my Uncle Miguel, learning about my grandmother's life. We hosted dinners at our house with our chosen family, Mia and her husband, Mr. Kowalski, Thomas's parents, work friends, people who valued us. No more texts begging for money, no more emergency calls, no more guilt trips, just peace. My father sent me a letter 6 months after the contracts were signed. 4 pages in shaky handwriting, his Parkinson's making the words uneven. He confessed everything, admitting they'd enabled Daniel, taken me for granted, treated me like a resource instead of a daughter. "Your mother cries every night," he wrote, "not because we're struggling financially, Because we lost you. The desk would have been beautiful. Thomas is a good man. You chose well. I don't ask for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I finally see you. I kept that letter. Not because it changed anything, but because it was acknowledgement. After 32 years, my father finally saw me. I sent a reply, short, honest. Dad, I appreciate your letter. I forgive you and Mom because holding anger hurts me more than it hurts you. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. Daniel is still paying his debt. You're still learning to support yourselves. I need distance. Maybe someday we can have coffee. But that day isn't today. Take care of your health. I didn't hear back. I didn't expect to. The final piece of closure came at a surprising moment. Thomas was in his workshop building a new desk. This one was from my home office. Custom piece. He'd been working on it for 2 months. I brought him coffee, watched him work. The smell of wood, the patient sound of his tools, the focus in his eyes. This man who'd tried to warn me for years, who'd put his heart into a gift for people who didn't deserve it. Who's this desk for? I asked, even though I knew. Us, he said, for your office, so you always remember what you're worth. He showed me a hidden drawer he'd built into the design. Inside was an engraving. Amanda, worth more than they could see. I started crying. Not sad tears. Release tears. Thank you, I said, for seeing me. Always have, he said quietly. Always will. And that was it. That was the ending I needed. Not dramatic confrontation, not tearful reconciliation, just this quiet moment with the person who'd always valued me. People ask if I regret cutting my family off, if I feel guilty for being harsh, for destroying Daniel's life. Here's the truth. I didn't destroy his life. I stopped building it for him. There's a difference. My brother called Thomas's gift cheap garbage. But you know what's really cheap? Expecting love without earning it, taking support without gratitude, demanding loyalty while giving none. The best revenge isn't cruelty. It's building a life so good that the people who disrespected you become irrelevant. My family thought I needed them. Turns out, they needed me. And by the time they realized it, I'd already found my real family, the ones who were there all along. Sometimes the people who should love you most will see you least. That's not your failure. It's theirs. Walk away. Build something beautiful. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your wins instead of resenting them. And never, ever apologize for refusing to be someone's ATM, doormat, or emotional punching bag. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when the table is empty and helps you build something real. That's the lesson. That's the power. That's the freedom. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been the family ATM, the forgotten sibling, the one who gives while others take, drop a comment. Tell me your story. You're not alone. And hit subscribe because every week we talk about the moment people who underestimated us finally understood. The moment we took our power back. This is our community, our chosen family. Welcome home.